Hi, I'm Vinod Kumar. I work with Intel Technologies. I've been an MVP in SQL Server since 2003. I'm a TechEd speaker. I'm also on a site which is called www.extremeexperts.com. It's about SQL Server and ASP.NET type of articles that you will find in that web link. In today's channel line video, I'll talk about SQL Server 2005. I've been a beta tester for SQL Server 2005 since its alpha stages. That is, it dates way back to 2003. So, what's the core concept of SQL Server 2005? There are many features that have come in SQL Server 2005 that, as a developer, that you would want to capitalize. But the most anticipated feature, I think so, is the CLR integration. So, in this channel line shoot, I think so, I'll try to take a closer look into what the CLR feature is, how you could maximize, what are the advantages that you have, when you should use, so on and so forth. We'll also look into some of the T-SQL announcements. So by and large, you can see that there are two different paradigms that are available. There is the CLR as a host, which is SQL Server again 2005, and also you have a whole host of T-SQL enhancements. We'll start with CLR as a host. So what is it for CLR languages in SQL Server 2005? Now in SQL Server 2005, you can write code that is stored procedures, triggers, functions, user-defined aggregates, types, all this in VB.NET or C#. That is CLR-dependent managed code. So what's the advantage really do I get by writing such a piece of code? I leverage a different set of developers. Now I have a different set of APIs which the base class library is exposed to me, and I can utilize that to do complex mathematical operations. We could name just to name a few of them. That is string class, the regex, which is quite handy class, the IO, which helps us to do a little bit of file management type of activities. So that's the core concept why you bring CLR into SQL Server 2005. Apart from just to bring CLR into SQL Server 2005, we have to also facilitate this management appropriately. For this, we have a hosting layer. The hosting layer acts as a bridge between the SQL OS, that's the SQL engine, and the CLR, which is getting hosted. What does this intermediate layer do? The intermediate layer actually does the memory management, it does thread management, it moves the context between SQL Server 2000 to the CLR, so it acts as a bridge between these two environments. We'll look into some of the enhancements that SQL Server 2005 with respect to CLR. We'll see a couple of demos to start off with. So let me start off by pulling the Visual Studio management, SQL Server management tools. The SQL Server management tool looks very much similar to the Visual Studio environment that we used to have. This actually is the shell. This is the VS shell that we have. So what's the advantage? There are many advantages because we use the same VS shell between Visual Studio 2005 and SQL Server 2005. Now, this shell allows us now gives us a couple of new projects. Now, one of them is this database project. Now, in a database project, I can add multiple, that is user-defined functions, stored procedures, aggregates, triggers, and types. So all these are now available to us. Fundamentally, if you look at it, the concept of CLR's integration is also to eliminate the requirement for extended stored procedures. Extended stored procedures were written earlier in C++ majorly, and there's no other options that we had. Now, extended stored procedures used to run in the memory space of the SQL Server management. So what happens? It can, and badly written extended stored procedure can have an infinite loop. It can do any sorts of memory activities, and it can bring down the SQL Server service itself. So one primary reason why we need such a CLR integration is to remove and eliminate such extended stored procedures. So in this example, I would look into one of the stored procedures, which is XP subdirectories. So you want to look into all the subdirectories that are there. So XP subdirs is one of the extended stored procedures that's there in SQL Server 2000. So we'll look an equivalent of it in SQL Server 2005. So in SQL Server 2000, we would have done this first. So if we had a directory, we would just execute that, and that would show me all the subdirectories that are there in the temp folder. So that's the temp folder that we have. Next, let's look into our to our demo. So in this demo, we have to include system.io because we are looping through the subdirectories that we have. So we have the template has been already given by Visual Studio. So I'm using beta 2 for this particular demo. So for a particular activity, I need the directory from which I need all the subdirectories. So I get that as a string. I see if the string is nothing, and or if nothing has been sent, then I tell it is invalid parameter. Then next I get into the directory info. I just create and instantiate a class of directory info, passing this directory. More than that, I need to tell SQL Server that what are the columns that I'm going to send back. So I'm going to have two columns over here. One is going to be subdirectory, which is again going to be a varchar, and so on and so forth. I send it to an SQL data recorder. A data recorder allows us to stream what are one by one the records that are generated from this management studio. Next, a pipe context. A context is nothing but when you move between an OS to the actual CLR, you have a context that is there. So this context has to be got by the extended stored procedure. So you have the context contains the connection, who's executing this particular task, so on and so forth. Next, we start telling the results are going to start through this pipe. Then I'm going to loop through the directories. So I just keep looping through the directories, create a record of the directory name and its creation time, send that results back to SQL Server. Then I terminate it, telling that it ends, and during this process, if I have any error, I just raise an exception. So this is one way in which I can see that we have not only extended the current capability of SQL Server 2000 because earlier we used to get just the directory names, but now you can see that we have a whole host of things that we can collect from the system.io because it exposes creation time, when it was last accessed. You can do a whole host of things. So extending an extended stored procedure is not possible. Now you can have this opens up a big advantage to us. Other than that, like for example, you would want to write some stuff into the event viewer. So how will you do that? For this, I use a system.diagnostic class which allows me to write into an event log procedure, event log. So this is fairly simple. I just instantiate the log. I have a log for myself, so I just instantiate it. I pass the event message, and that message gets written down. I just have some which tells just log for the channel 9 demo. So let's start to deploy this. There are two modes in which you can deploy it. Either you can deploy it manually, or you could deploy it magically if you want to say it from the studio environment. I just right click on this and say deploy. So this starts the deployment process. You could see that it starts to build it, and after building it, it will try to deploy it. So it also deploys the files that are required. Then next we get into the studio management. Let's see whether our project has got deployed. So get into programmability, get into assemblies, we will see we have the CLR demo. So what are the dependencies, that is what are the methods that we created, are they there? So just right click, view dependencies. This will show you. Yes, so this shows us two stored procedures, one for our subdirectories and one for the log event. Great. So let's see what do we get the same results with respect to the CLR stored procedures. Yes, we got the same 4 rows, but you can see that we have also got some extended methods, extended properties that have come out. So let's also execute the log event, but before that, let's look into our event viewer. Do we have anything? No. So let's go fire this test. Let's log event viewer. Log into event viewer from SQL Server 2005. So getting back here we go. So here's our event that gets fired from SQL Server 2005, and it gets logged. So you can see that there's a whole host of advantages that we have when we integrate CLR into SQL Server 2005. Now this is going to be in one integrated module because CLR is going to get hosted inside the SQL Server space rather than a different process. If you have it as a different process, you have process hops, and that's going to be a performance deterrent. That's why you see hosting CLR into SQL Server is a very big advantage. Next, we'll look into some of the T-SQL enhancements. There are a whole host of T-SQL enhancements that have come in. I mean, to name a few, XML. XML is big. It's a first-class data type that you'll have to look into SQL Server 2005. So, what can you do? You can write X queries. You can write X paths, which can tell how do you want to query XML. It can be fragments of XML, or it can be completely a proper XML DOM document. So I can just have it as XML as a data type for a column. So I can just create a table with my raw data as XML. So it's very simple that I just store XML, and I can do all sorts of manipulation with those XML data. The advantage is that I can also index on those data. So that's the next advantage that you get by having XML. So there's a whole host of enhancements around the XML framework because XML has become a de facto way of communication between many sources, and it is again a flat way of talking between two applications. Next, we have an HTTP endpoint. HTTP endpoint is an advantage because there's a web services infrastructure that is given to you out of the box from SQL Server. So I don't need an IIS to really host the web services. I can tell a stored procedure needs to be exposed as a web service. So I create an HTTP endpoint and I tell who all can access it, and it can be select star from a table, or it can be a call to a stored procedure. So either ways, I get the infrastructure of web services from SQL Server directly out of the box. I don't need SQL XML, which was an add-on in SQL Server 2000, which again mandated a web service layer, web server layer to be in front of you. So that's not required hereafter. You can just create it out of the box. Next is snapshot isolation. Snapshot isolation is very interesting if you look into it. A snapshot, it takes readers don't block writers, and writers don't block readers. So this is one of the native advantages that Oracle used to tell, but now we have it out of the box again in SQL Server 2005. So you could tell that I need a snapshot of this data as of this time, and that is stored. I can also you have two ways. You can have a database snapshot, or you can have a snapshot isolation. Snapshot isolation tells if there is a transaction running, I would get a data which was just before the transaction started. So that's one other advantages. Indexes, the whole host of advantages that have come into indexes. In indexes, we have online operations now, online and non-key operations. Non-key is that you can include a non-key value in the leaf node, which means that I can now have more than I can have even text columns in the leaf node. Now that allows us to do an index seek if you do a normal query with that particular column, because that becomes a covering index. Earlier this was not possible, and because you would always be querying it on the key columns, and keys always being 16 columns, you can't go beyond that. Data partitioning. Data partitioning is another advantage that we can see. We can partition data logically into different disks and maximize the I/O capability that we have, because hardware is cheap. I can have multiple disks. I can have SanDisk arrays. I can do any sort of configurations, and I can have different file groups in different disks and maximize on the I/O. Next, with respect to service broker. Service broker is an asynchronous way of messaging inside the database. You get whole asset properties that you have with the databases. That's a big advantage that I'm seeing. Profiler enhancements. I'll show you one of the profiler enhancements that really actually fancy me, because as a DBA, profiler is one of the information that I use to actually capture data is one part of it and analyze it. Earlier, what people used to do is capture the event bureau data separately and then the profiler data separately, and they have to merge it. Now in SQL Server 2005, if you look into it, now both these have been clubbed into one. So let's look at a demo for profiler. So here we are. This is the profiler window in which I'm going to operate. This contains already a trace data and also the information for the profiler. So performance data is also integrated. So what I have to do is to start off with, I open a trace file, and as soon as I do this, what happens is this particular menu item gets enabled. So I can also import performance data. Then I can tell what type of performance data I need to view it. Now the advantage here you can see is that as I start pressing on various points, what happens is automatically my cursor goes to the statement. What statements was running at that point in time. I can also drill down. I can just say I need this data. I can just keep drilling down. Okay, at this point in time, what happened? So what was it run? There are also enhanced profiler has gone to the next level. Deadlocks. Deadlocks were effectively one of the problems in which trace data, we have the information profiler to the root and see what's the SPI causing locking, actual problem was locking it, and then take that data out and tell, okay, these two processes are getting locked because of this particular data. Now what happens in SQL Server 2005 is that it comes out of the box. Now you get a deadlock chain event, and you just subscribe to that event. As soon as you subscribe to that event, what happens is you get two dialogues which tells which are the objects that these two processes were using, whether it was an update operation which is waiting for a select operation, so on and so forth. So there's a whole host of enhancements with respect to tools also that have come. Okay, next I'll talk about the SQL Server communities that are available in India in general. So we have a vibrant community in Bangalore. We have a SQL Bang user group, which is groups.msn.com/SQL Bang. I'll be hanging around there. You can ask me your questions on Yukon or on SQL Server 2000. You have quite a lot of people out on that forum who can answer you the questions on SQL Server centric if they are SQL Server centric. We have a whole host of events that happen from the SQL Server community. We have a SQL BI day. We had a design day. We are having a DevCon day. So let me talk about these events. The design day is more on the architectural part of it. How do I do performance tuning? How do I do monitoring? How do I do scale my applications? So these are the type of questions that we answer at that forums. We have industry experts coming from the INATA Speaker Bureau or from the Microsoft community who come and talk about how to can enable applications that can be well written and received at the market. Next was the SQL BI day. We had a one-day event wherein we had INATA speaker and the MS community people who came and talked about what's new in SQL Server 2000 and also in 2005, and also they have told us what's the vision in writing your applications looking at SQL Server 2005. So we had INATA and Microsoft speakers at that forums. We have DevCon that is lined up at various places. We have been conducting DevCons at Pune, at Hyderabad, and we are also planning to conduct it in Bangalore. So in DevCon we have a 2-day event, end-to-end event, wherein we have one day dedicated for the developers and the IT community, and the second day for the students community. Students community is again a vibrant community. Again, these people are passionate about coding in Microsoft technology. So we give them an place where they can go and poll for what are the type of sessions that they want. So a 2-day session that is completely governed by them. They go online, they poll it, and then they ask us, these are the sessions that I want. And we take such sessions based again from the INATA and PAS and also the Microsoft community people. We have community chats. We have which are another means wherein we are going to open up SQL Server 2005 related questions that come up. We have a security chat that is lined up next. We have a whole host of chats on Visual Studio and on SQL Server that are lined up. We have the blogs. Blogs are also one of the integral part of in which the community interacts with the development team. Microsoft the development team has started to open up its employees to writing blogs at the blogs.msdn.com. And we have started to see that there's a lot of interaction that is happening through the blogs. I've seen a lot of developers who are hanging around on the blog site and they give us a lot of feedbacks. And these feedbacks go directly into the development team. They implement it, and the very next CTP builds it just comes out. CTP builds are nothing but the community tech preview builds. These are builds that come to the community directly from the heart of the development team. So this is one other way by which you could get the SQL Server 2005 hands-on. If you are an MSDN subscriber, you could also get the SQL Server 2005 builds directly online. Just go get it online. If you are a beta subscriber, you could also get it from the beta site. Apart from this, you have an Express edition. Express edition is a lightweight edition. If you look at it from the complete SQL Server 2005, a whole host of features that you look at it. It's a much more lightweight version wherein you could play around with the CLR features that I talked about earlier. You could also play around with the XML features, all the T-SQL enhancements, which includes the how do you write CDEs, how do you do pivoting, how do you do ranking, how do you do snapshots. You could play around with all these small features from the MSDE type of environment. So MSDE is being replaced by the SQL Server Express Manager now. That's all.